computer. Disconnect the AC power adapter from the computer. Press the power button, then repeatedly press the F1 key until the BIOS appears. Use the right arrow key to select the configuration menu. Use the down arrow key to select power and press enter. Then select Disable Built-in Battery and press enter. Confirm that Yes is selected and press enter to power down the system. Connect the power supply cable to the computer. Press the power button to automatically enable the battery. Insert a straightened paper clip into the release hole of the SIM card tray. Pull the tray from the slot and leave it out until servicing is complete. To exchange a SIM card, slide the card from the tray's restraining clips. Insert the SIM card under the tab in the SIM card tray. Insert the tray into the slot until it clicks into place. Place a plastic pry tool into each of the two notches located near the front edge of the keyboard frame. Carefully slide the frame forward about 2.5 millimeters to reveal the screws. Make sure no keys are blocking the frame's movement. Carefully loosen the 6 captive screws securing the keyboard to the chassis. Make sure not to damage or dislodge the keys. The screws are located next to the following keys: the semicolon key, the J key, the F key, the S key, the up arrow key, and the control key. Lift the front edge of the keyboard, then lift the rear edge to expose the cables. Disconnect both cables from the system board. Connect both keyboard cables to the system board. Insert the rear edge of the keyboard under the corresponding edge of the bezel assembly. Carefully press down to snap the keyboard into place. Slide the keyboard toward the front, making sure the tabs are securely under the bezel. Carefully tighten the 6 captive screws to secure the keyboard to the system. Make sure not to damage or dislodge the keys. The screws are located next to the following keys: the control key, the S key, the F key, the J key, the semicolon key, and the up arrow key. Place a plastic pry tool into each of the 2 notches located near the front edge of the keyboard frame. Carefully slide the frame toward the front of the system. Close the cover and turn the system over. Loosen the 8 captive screws that secure the base cover. Lift the cover to remove it. Align the base cover with the ports of the system. Make sure the cover is seated correctly. Tighten the 8 captive screws to secure the base cover to the keyboard bezel assembly. Remove the single retaining screws securing the hard disk drive and bracket to the keyboard bezel assembly. Slightly raise the free end of the drive enough to clear the mounting post, then slide the drive assembly to disconnect the drive and release it from the clips. Detach the hard drive bracket by carefully pulling the mounting posts from each of the 4 hard drive screw holes. Starting at one end, insert each of the bracket posts into the screw mount holes of the hard disk drive. Place the front edge of the hard disk drive onto the shock pads and insert the edge of the bracket into the mounting clip. Slide the drive into position and connect the drive to the system. Install the single retaining screw. Push the latches outward on both sides of the memory socket to release the memory module. Pull the module straight out to disconnect it from the socket. Align the memory module with the memory socket, taking note of the notch. Insert the module into the memory socket. Push down on the top edge of the module. Make sure the latches lock into place. Disconnect the backup battery cable from the system board. Peel back the tape that secures the cable. Pry the backup battery from its adhesive backing. Lower the backup battery adhesive side down and press firmly to attach it to the system board. Secure the cable with tape. Connect the backup battery cable to the system board. Disconnect the two antenna cables. Remove the single retaining screw to raise the card. Pull the wireless LAN card from the connection. Insert the wireless LAN card into the connection. Install the single retaining screw. Connect the black antenna cable to the jack labeled main. Connect the gray antenna cable to the jack labeled auxiliary. Disconnect the two antenna cables from the wireless WAN card. Remove the single retaining screw to raise the card. Pull the card from the connection. Insert the wireless WAN card into the connection, taking note of the notch. Install the single retaining screw. Connect the red antenna cable to the jack labeled main. Connect the blue antenna cable to the jack labeled auxiliary. Disconnect the power cable from the system board. Remove 4 retaining screws. Lift the battery pack straight up to remove it. Align the battery pack with the power connection and place it into the keyboard bezel assembly. Install the 4 retaining screws. Connect the power cable to the system board. Detach the rubber support and disconnect the fan cable from the system board. Loosen the 4 labeled captive screws in ascending order. Screw number 1, 2, 3, and screw number 4. Carefully lift up the thermal fan assembly to remove it. Apply 0.2 grams of thermal grease to the thermal fan assembly. Carefully align and lower the thermal fan assembly to the system board screw mounts. Tighten the screws in ascending order. Screw number 1, 2, 3, and screw number 4. Connect the thermal fan assembly cable to the system board. Make sure the connection is secure. Attach the rubber support to the system board using the adhesive backing. Disconnect the Clickpad cable from the system board. Remove 3 screws. Move the cable out of the way. Grasp and lift the board straight up to disconnect it from the system board. Connect the hard disk drive sub card directly to the system board using the connection and guideposts for alignment. Apply the Clickpad cable to the sub card using adhesive backing and connect the cable to the system board. Secure the board with 3 screws. Uninstall the antenna cables from the cable guides attached to the speaker assembly. Disconnect the speaker cable from the system board. Remove the left shoulder screw, the center retaining screw, and the right shoulder screw securing the speaker assembly. Lift the assembly from the guidepost to remove it. Connect the speaker cable to the system board. Place the speaker assembly onto its guideposts. Install the left shoulder screw. The right shoulder screw, and the center retaining screw. Install the antenna cables into the cable guides of the speaker assembly. Secure the loose cables with tape. Disconnect the smart card bezel cable. Fingerprint reader cable. LED power button cable. LCD cable. Camera and microphone cable. And DC in connector cable from the system board. Remove a single retaining screw from the thermal shield and lift it from the platform controller hub. Remove 3 screws securing the system board. Carefully lift the system board up from the guideposts and away from the keyboard bezel assembly. Carefully align and lower the system board onto the mounting holes on the keyboard bezel assembly. Make sure no cables are pinned or pinched and the board is seated correctly. Install 2 silver screws and 1 black screw in between them. Connect the smart card reader cable, the DC in connector cable, the camera cable, the LCD cable, the power button board cable, the fingerprint reader cable, and secure the Clickpad cable to the hard disk drive sub card and connect the cable to the system board. Place the thermal shield on the platform controller hub and secure it with a single screw. Place the system board on a clean electrostatic mat. Remove 3 retaining screws. Turn the system board over. Lift up the edge nearest the center of the system board to disconnect the media card reader. Place the system board on a clean electrostatic mat. Align the card connector with the corresponding connection on the system board and press down carefully yet firmly to ensure a proper connection. Turn the system board over and install 3 retaining screws. Remove a single retaining screw from the fingerprint reader bracket. Lift the bracket off the fingerprint reader and pull the bracket from underneath the restraining clip. Lift the fingerprint reader from the guideposts. Align and place the fingerprint reader onto the guideposts. Slide the tab end of the bracket under the securing clip. Secure the assembly with a single screw. Follow the procedures to install the system board on the keyboard bezel assembly. Then connect the ribbon cable to the system board. Disconnect the DC in connector cable from the system board. Remove the single retaining screw from the metal bracket. Lift the DC in connector out from the securing brackets. Insert the tabs of the DC in connector under the corresponding clips on the keyboard bezel assembly. Secure the connector with 1 screw. Connect a DC in connector cable to the system board. Disconnect the ribbon cable from the system board. Remove 2 screws. Lift the board off its guideposts to remove. Place the power button board onto its guideposts on the keyboard bezel assembly. Secure the board with 2 screws. Connect the ribbon cable to the system board. If the system board is in place, Detach the LCD cable and the camera cable from the system board. Remove 2 screws from the left LCD unit hinge. Remove 2 screws from the right LCD unit hinge. Lift the hinges from their guideposts to remove the LCD unit. Align the keyboard bezel assembly with the LCD unit and lower the hinges onto the guideposts. Install 2 screws on the left LCD unit hinge. Install 2 screws on the right hinge. Connect the LCD cable and the camera cable to the system board. Install the antenna cables into the cable guides along the speaker assembly. Secure the cables with tape. Disconnect the ribbon cable from the system board. Peel back the tape. Remove 5 retaining screws. Uninstall the cable from the adhesive backing. Uninstall the ribbon cable through the keyboard bezel hole to remove the Clickpad. Install the Clickpad ribbon cable through the corresponding hole in the keyboard bezel assembly. Align the Clickpad with the mounting holes of the bezel. Install 5 retaining screws. Secure the ribbon cable using adhesive backing and tape. Install the cable onto the hard disk drive sub card and connect the cable to the system board. Disconnect the ribbon cable from the system board. Remove 5 screws. Uninstall the cable from the adhesive backing and tilt the card bracket section from under the clip to remove. Connect the mounting slot of the smart card bezel with the corresponding clip on the keyboard bezel assembly and lower the unit into place using the guideposts for alignment. Secure the card base section with 3 screws. Secure the board section with 2 screws. Connect the cable to the system board. Secure the cable with adhesive backing. Use your fingernails or a non-metallic pry tool to start. Be careful not to scratch the LCD panel surface and use caution not to cut your fingers on the thin edge of the bezel. Use your fingers to work around the edges to remove the bezel. Starting at the lower edge, place the tabs of the LCD bezel under the lip of the cover assembly. Make sure no cables are pinched. Carefully press the bezel into place, working around the edges until it snaps securely. Remove the 4 screws that secure the LCD panel to the top cover. Detach the tape securing the antenna cables to the panel. Lift and carefully turn the LCD panel over. Peel back the adhesive tape and detach the LCD cable from its connection. Carefully place the LCD panel face down on an electrostatic mat. Connect the LCD cable and attach the adhesive tape firmly. Make sure the connection is secure. Turn the LCD panel over and place it onto the cover. Make sure the panel is seated correctly and no cables are pinched. Secure the loose cables with tape. Install 4 screws to secure the LCD panel to the cover assembly. Remove the 3 screws securing the hinge to the cover assembly. Remove the cables from the hinge cable guides. Remove the hinge. Repeat for the other hinge if needed. Install the cables into the cable guides in the hinge. Place the hinge onto the mount posts in the cover assembly. Make sure the cables are not pinched. Install the 3 screws securing the hinge to the cover assembly. Repeat for the other hinge if needed. Place the hinge onto the guide posts. Install the 3 screws securing the hinge to the cover assembly. Disconnect the cable from the camera card. Carefully pry the integrated camera from the adhesive backing and lift it from the guide posts. Align the camera card with the cover brackets and press the card into place using the adhesive backing. Connect the cable to the camera card. Then, if needed, install the cable to the cover using the adhesive backing. Install the Think light into its indentation and press it into place. Carefully pry the WAN antenna bracket from the adhesive backing and remove the metal tape. Uninstall the antenna cable from the cable guides. If the LAN antenna bracket is too difficult to pry loose, peel up the metal tape, then pry the antenna bracket from the adhesive backing. Repeat the process for the other antennas if needed. Carefully align the LAN antenna to the cover brackets and press the unit into place. Apply the metal tape. Align and attach the WAN antenna using the adhesive backing and apply the metal tape. Install the antenna cables into the cable guides. Repeat the process for the other two antenna brackets if needed.